Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today I'm here in the highlands of Israel. Yes, I'm not in the highlands of Scotland. This is definitely a stone desert with mountains here, and it's a very, very scenic and biblical scene here. And it's actually a very historic place as well. You can walk up this valley and you'll find a little oasis there. There are tons of caves in there with Hebraic writings on there, which is really interesting because the Hebraic that you can actually read, if you can read Hebrew, then you can actually read the old text as well. The language didn't change a lot. So native people that do speak the language, they can actually go into these old caves and see the old writings on the wall or some on the stones, and they can actually read a lot of it. So very, very interesting. Yeah, but today it's not about a history lesson. It's about a whiskey distillery called M&H. I'm here at the Deadsea. You can see at the very back, you can see the Deadsea, and I'll have something cut in for you. This will come in later, just wait for it. But let's talk about the M&H Distillery, which is actually located not at the Deadsea, but at the Mediterranean Sea, and that is in Tel Aviv. So the distillery was founded by Gal Kalkstein in 2012, and he was kind of a pioneer. He said, yeah, let's do a distillery in Tel Aviv. We're such a beautiful city, we need a whiskey distillery. And that was a very extraordinary thing to do, because usually you build whiskey distilleries where it is not as hot as in Israel or in Tel Aviv, for that sake. And but it was an idea, he made it, and the brand is now really, it's an amazing brand. They won a lot of awards, and how they did that, I will follow up later. Yeah, so in 2012 they founded it, and they thought about, okay, there are no rules about whiskey in Israel, so how do we make whiskey? And let's follow the Scotch rules for their single malt Scotch whiskey. Obviously it's not a Scotch because it's not produced in Scotland, but they follow all the other rules with the sizes of the cask and the distilling and all that kind of stuff. So they really make a good spirit, let's say it that way. But they thought about, okay, if you make a whiskey distillery, you have to have some expertise. They didn't take anybody who's typically associated nowadays with opening whiskey distilleries in Scotland, but they took a Dr. Jim Swan, who is really an expert in opening whiskey distilleries in hot climate. So he was involved with Amrut, he was involved with Kavalan, which have kind of more of similar situation that you have here with a very, very hot climate. And so he has a lot of expertise, and he helped them setting up the stills and setting up all the production processes and the yeast and the casks. So he had really his hands on. And he helped them a lot. And the distillery is the idea of the distillery was still a lot to do with the city of Tel Aviv. So they wanted to capture what is Tel Aviv. So they said, okay, we have the old traditional rules I've just talked about with the Scotch rules, which is similar to what they have in the city of Jaffa, which is a part of Tel Aviv now, which was the ancient city that was built there. And that represents the old part. So they have they cling on to the tradition of Scotch, and that represents Jaffa. But they do a lot of experimenting and a lot of new stuff, which is really interesting. And they've won a lot of awards for that. And how they do that, I will actually have a follow-up in that video here today. And so, and the new style of Tel Aviv is the partying, at the beaches, and the liveliness of the city. The city of Tel Aviv is really a city that is alive 24/7, with people at the beach having the boom boxes and playing beach volleyball, and there is a big bar scene, party scene, and it's just Tel Aviv is, you find that city, it's alive. Also, it's called the White City. It's a beautiful city where you have a lot of white building with the Bauhaus Bauhaus style from back in the days. Yeah, so a little bit of background. So they opened up in 2015 as they started production, and as they do mature quite a lot, quite fast, as I come to later, then they already brought out a lot of whiskies. Yeah, so let's get back to Tel Aviv and have a look at the distillery. The ingredients for the whiskey are actually malt, water and yeast. So the malt comes from England, Germany and Czech Republic, because this is where good barley is grown in Europe, and also where they do have a very big malting tradition, and yeah, the quality standards and the production capacities in these countries are really high, and they are then sent here, imported here in big grain sacks, yeah, just to have the good quality. The Belgium yeast is a normal distiller's yeast that is common and also good in quality. And the last thing is the water. They don't have an own water well. They are a city distillery, so they have to take the water from the city, but they are not satisfied with the quality of the water from the city, so they have their own processing of water to demineralize it, take all the minerals out that are not suitable for making whiskey. If you just take the water from the city, it would have kind of a bitter taste to it, so that you really have to have a bit of a water treatment to get the good quality here. They have a very modern mash tun, 6,000 liters in capacity, and this is, yeah, as I said, very modern, very efficient. They can actually have 2 runs and don't need a 3rd run for efficiency reasons. And yeah, in terms of what they do in the process is they are going for a clear wort, so very fruity, very sweet, fruity in style. As the clear wort goes for a very fruity style, and with that all the starches converted to sugar and sugar diluted into the now called wort. We're going off to the making of the actual alcohol. Here is the fun part that happens when the sugar and the yeast turns to alcohol and CO2, and also flavors. The fermentation is actually very, very important for the creation of the flavors. Here you create the flavors. With the distillation, you just pick and choose what kind of flavors you want to be taken out and what flavors you want to have inside your spirit. But the creation is all done here. So what you do is you add yeast. It ferments to about 40 hours with alcoholic fermentation, where you end up with 7 to 8% alcohol. And after that, you have lactobacterial fermentation. So lactobacterial, like in yogurt or sauerkraut, have in there, and they produce different kind of esters that have different kind of flavors. And as I said, we have a clear wort that gives you the clear wort with the yeast gives you a very fruity fermentation. With a long duration of 96 hours, you have a very fruity spirit. The 48 hours they also do is a bit of a shorter fermentation, would not be as fruity, maybe have some grassy style, but depends on the yeast and depends on the style. So they are really going for a bit of a fruity character here. And what they do in the end, because they have to be kosher, they have to stick to free time on Sabbath, and they only can do a few with 96 hours and a few with 48 hours. And that means they have to mix it in the end before they put it into the still to get a consistent new make spirit. After they distill the new make, they also mix the new make, so it is very a consistent product that you have, even though you have different kind of fermentation times. Yeah, what is also very interesting is this is a hot country and you have very hot surroundings. The stainless steel wash bags with 6,000 liters in capacity, they are really, they're transferring the heat pretty quickly. So you would heat up quite a lot, and with 30 degrees in the summer,
you would not cool them down, so the yeast would be too hot, too fast, and would produce, yeah, not necessarily good flavors. So what they do have, they have double-walled wash bags with water coating around the inner wash bag. The inner wash bag is then cooled, so they let it heat to about 33 degrees Celsius, and which is, I don't know, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm not quite sure. And then they cool it down to 31, and yeah, they let this happen and control the fermentation, so they really have a little bit of a slower fermentation to get the right flavors. They told me they're a bit experimental, as they are a new distillery. They can still do a bit of experimenting because they're not that bound of tradition. And what they do is they can experiment with yeast, they can experiment with a bit wort, and they also can experiment with the temperature of the fermentation, which is always nice when you have water cooling, that you can say, I want to have like lower temperatures for fermentation, or even let them go a bit higher to see how wild these flavors are that are produced. So yeah, this is the fermentation, which is at about 7 to 8% alcohol that goes then into distilling. The distillation, it really is a very, very key part to producing whiskey here. You really have to look at a few things to get it right. Otherwise, in such a hot climate, you mess up pretty badly. So the beginning starts pretty easy. Wash still, distilling pretty quick. That is just the normal process. But then the spirit still, yeah, the delicate part. You have the low wines from the wash still. You have the feints and the foreshots from the last run, and you distill it. And here the distillery cannot have low cuts. They really have a problem with their feints. They have to set their cuts really high, from 80 to 70, to get a light spirit and have all the heavier stuff not in their new make, but have them in the feints, and yeah, distill them again, get catalytic reactions, break them down, get lighter stuff. And that is because they have to think ahead. What comes next? The maturation. You cannot mature for many years here in the hot climate. You can make 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, maybe that, and that's it. You can't go 10, 20 years there. And what 10, 20 years give the whiskey is a reductive maturation that take out these heavy, unwanted flavors. And yeah, they can't do that, so they have to take them out during the distillation. This is now a bit of a balance. So when you take out the heavy stuff, you're left only with a light one. So you would get a really light spirit, really light whiskey. So what they try to get is, they have tweaked their distillery so they get the oily stuff and all the heavier flavors already in their middle cut at the beginning. Probably they distill quite hot, and they have a bit of a constriction piece, which would be negating that. But they have a falling line arm, which would also give you a bit of a heavier spirit. So this is the way they try to get, with all the tweaks, to get the heavy flavors in very fast and cut out the strong, more bitter stuff that you can't do with reductive maturation. Yeah, that was the distillation, really a tricky part, and Dr. Jim Swan helped them a lot with that. He had the expertise. Now let's have a look how the whiskey is matured. The maturation here is very different to what we know from Scotland, as it is here 300 days of sun and 30 degrees kind of on average. Now today is 30 degrees, and you can go up to 50 degrees, which is the absolute maximum. Like 40 degrees is like, yeah, in summer 40, 45 maybe. But this is really, really, really hot. So what you do have then is an angel share of 11% per year. So that makes the maturation a lot, more expensive, because you lose a lot of your product. What is then the other side of the story is you have a very fast maturation. Whereas in Scotland, you have the whiskey sleeping for 12 years inside the cask. Here they say, oh, whiskey doesn't sleep, it works. And yeah, it really works in the cask. It gets much deeper into the staves, and the staves give up more of their flavor. So you have, after 3 years, you already do have full matured whiskey. And that's what they do. They want to have 5 years of maturation. And yeah, after that, they do have some that mature a little bit longer, but they're looking at whiskeys that, yeah, they don't go beyond that quite a lot. If you have bigger casks, less wood to whiskey ratio, then you can go a bit longer, but yeah, you don't go a lot longer than 3 years here. But what's interesting is they do tend to have more than 200 liters, otherwise it's just not possible. What they're doing with the small cask is a lot of experimenting. They see this hot climate, they don't really have any cellar where they have like humidity and lower temperatures. They embrace the hot climate because they have smaller cycles. They don't need that many warehouses, and they can do a lot more experiments. When you have a whiskey that matures within 3 years or finishes within like a few months, then you can see what kind of flavors come in with different kind of wines and different kind of casks. So they have 75% bourbon cask here on site, but the other casks have so many experiments. They have a lot of wine casks, a lot of STR, shaved, toasted, recharred wine casks from Israel, the Israeli wine. They're really proud of that. They have to certify everything kosher and that kind of stuff. They have a lot of sherry. They have a lot of different sweet wines. They have Islay casks. They have sherry casks. So they're really experimenting. I've heard they have a tequila cask or mezcal cask. They're experimenting quite a lot around here. And that is what they do love. They are new, they are innovative. They stick to the old rules, but they have the new innovative part where they can just try out everything. And they have really, really short cycles of trying that out. So the warehouses, you have like 4,000 in the city, 2,000 and maybe a bit more in the warehouse that they have offsite in the city. And they still have a warehouse in the Jerusalem mountains, like 900 meters high. Then you have a warehouse at the Sea of Galilee. And then the last thing is they do have a small warehousing at the Deadsea. And yeah, let's just go there and have a look how a whiskey matures at the Deadsea. The warehouse location here at the Deadsea is totally different to what you have with any other warehouse. But it's a bit different to warehouse because we are here in the open air. So we are exposed to all of the heat, and what is very interesting is to the air pressure. As this here is minus 300 meters in height, and yeah, the Deadsea is the lowest point on Earth that is occurring naturally. So the air pressure is actually a lot higher than in other parts of the world. And you can actually see that here with the casks. Because of the pressure, you do have more cracks going open. Also because the weather is really hot and really dry. So when the angel share takes some of the whiskey out, the top is a bit bound to become really dry. So there are a lot of specialties about maturing whiskeys here. And yeah, the people at the distillery, they do know their hot weather, they have experience. So this is the 4th batch they're doing here with their experimental season. And what I'm doing now is a bit of a comparative tasting. First of all, I want to talk about the Angel's Share. The Angel's Share is here 25% per year. So you lose 25% per year. So what they do is they don't mature anything here fully on site, but they only do half in Tel Aviv and now half here at the Deadsea. So the left one here is a 300-liter cask with a wine cask with the Israeli wine, very, very grapey, very fruity, very alive. And that was matured fully in the storage in Tel Aviv. And this cask behind me, we just taken a sample. I'm going to cut in a bit of B-roll, how we take it. And this is here on my right hand, your left. And you can already see a difference. It is darker, and that's because you have more air pressure. You have a hotter climate that makes the
the whiskey work a lot more inside the cask. Now let's have a bit of a comparative tasting here. Oh, that is nice. The whiskey from Tel Aviv, very alive, very fruity. A lot of grapes, red fruit, berries going on. Let's have a look how the. I really need to talk a little bit to have it die down because it's still so much Tel Aviv party in my mouth. Yeah. And what is also really interesting is the fact that when you open the cask, it's a bit easier to open the cask because of all the air pressure and the temperature here. Oh, ABV is a bit higher, and you have a lot more spiciness. You have a lot more oak in it. It has that grapey touch to it. You can't deny it, that Israeli wine is just tons and tons of grapes in there and tons of fruitiness, but it has a much heavier touch to it with a lot of oak in it and a lot of spiciness to it. Feels a little bit like that one is European and that one is maybe American oak, but they are sister casks. They have been filled at the same time just to have this comparison here, and that is really nice. Leaves a bit of a dry spot in your mouth. Good. So yeah, that was it here with the warehouse, and let's continue. Yeah, this was it with the production, and now I'm sitting here with the head distiller, Tomer Goren. And yeah, you have 20 years of distilling experience?
Yeah, actually a little bit more than 20 years, but I started at home.
Oh, you started at home?
Hobby distillation. Unlike Germany, it's not illegal.
Okay.
So we are very lucky to be able to distill at home. Of course, you need to know what you're doing. Because it can be bad. But
yeah, so you also picked up a little bit of experience in Scotland?
Yeah, I've worked for a while in some Scotch distilleries. But most of my experience is here in M&H. Actually, I'm from day one with M&H from 2013.
Okay. So you, together with Dr. Jim Swan, you really set up the business here?
So together with Dr. Jim Swan, the late Dr. Jim Swan, who unfortunately passed away in February 2017, we planned the production floor, the production process. Of course, we worked on the recipe of the future whiskey to come. He helped us a lot, mostly because of his expertise in hot climate whiskey production, which was very important to us to do things properly, to do things right. And he was, of course, the biggest expert in the world of hot climate whiskey production.
Okay, and you've told me that the small still that you have here for the gin, that was your still?
Yeah, actually I had 250 liters spirit still at home, which was very nice.
Can you just buy them off the shelf here? Or?
Well, I bought them from Portugal.
Portugal?
It's Alembic, Portuguese style stills, which is not very common in the whiskey industry. There are some distilleries that I know that working with this type of still, but it gives really good results.
So how do you do it at home? Do you have like a steam engine or? Like
I had a small steam engine.
Oh, you did?
I built a small distillery, actually a small distillery
that is amazing.
at home at my basement.
Okay.
And I had steam, I had chillers.
So if that was like more than 20 years ago, how old were you?
Don't say anymore. I
like
was
18.
From 17 years.
Okay. Then you're allowed to still probably not drink, but
yeah. No, if it's for private consumption, it's okay.
It's okay. Okay, so very lovely. I've seen so much about your products, and can I have a try of your like?
Okay, so let's try with the classic.
Okay.
Which is, I like to call it a table whiskey, but it represents the distillery character. What we aim to do here, and we present this in the all 4 core range products, is to make some balanced whiskey, and it's very very easy with our rapid maturation in the hot climate to go crazy and to let the cask work and over matured. But what we try to do is to work with the cask, to monitor the maturation process, and to give some well-balanced, although feels like matured whiskey.
It's amazing. This how old would it be around? Is it? It's at least 3 years, right?
Well, of course, we are following the Scotch regulations. The lack of regulations for the whiskey industry in Israel led us to follow the Scotch regulation, to adopt it. And voluntarily, because we were aiming global from day one, I think the Scotch are the most acceptable regulations in the world of whiskey.
They are very honest.
Yes.
You do know what you have in your glass if you say this is a Scotch single malt.
Of course, and it's very important for us when we send the whiskey abroad, when we export it, that the people will know what they get. So at least 3 years and 1 day in cask. Of course, now we're more close to 4, but to be honest, in blind tasting, if you blind taste it, it feels older than it.
Hot climate, 3.5 years is like, I don't know, 12 years or 15 years or something like that.
Well, I don't like the formulas because every cask reacts differently.
Yes, it's much different. It's not 15 years has a different touch to it than 3.5 years in a hot climate. Yeah.
Yeah, but it feels older.
What I found really interesting is that we had the comparison between your stock here and the one at the Deadsea. It's the thing is Tel Aviv and Deadsea is like, even here is day and night. And this year, and let's say some Speyside or Highlander would also be day and night. So
of course.
What is like?
And it gives us a window about maturation. And the maturation process, I think it's, I won't say the most important, but I think it gives the biggest character part, the biggest part of character to the whiskey. About 70-80% of the character, if I can say, comes from the maturation process. And this is what we have here. Any distillery has to work with the climate that it has in the location. And in Israel we have hot and humid climate, and we need to work with this and to know how to work with this, to learn how to work with this climate. It's not just putting the whiskey into cask and it works good and anything is good. We need to change some things in the production process. We need to monitor the casks much frequently because casks works here. It's not sleeping like in Scotland, it works.
It works, yeah. So what kind of casks do we have in the Classic?
So the Classic has 75% ex-bourbon cask. Ex-bourbon is the most common cask here. I believe in ex-bourbon. I really love what it gives. It's like a white canvas. Over the ex-bourbon base, we can build the blend and put the colors with different cask types. But 75% it represents the distillery character. All the core range are based also on ex-bourbon casks. Over the ex-bourbon here, to give it more depth, more spices, a little bit more mouthfeel, we put 25% STR. And STR shaved toast recharred cask, formerly wine casks.
I do have to say it's an intense spirit. It has a lot of oaky character, and 46% transport also a lot. I think I'm just a little bit biased because I had so many other things now that are so glowing with flavor. This is as you said, table whiskey, but still, if you compare it to other, let's say, drinking table whiskeys in the world, I would say this is an intense one still.
Yeah, it has more character. It is more intense. Of course, it's 46% ABV, like all the 4 bottles in the core range. We don't go below that because we are not doing any chill filtration. Of course, all colors here are natural from the cask. We don't do any coloring. So that's very important to understand. But this represents the base of M&H, the heart of
I would
M&H.
say, yeah. That is, but it's a nice drinking whiskey. You have to like intense whiskeys, but then it's a nice drinking whiskey. Yeah.
Maybe for those who are used to drink 40%, 40% whiskeys, maybe it will be a little bit harsh at the beginning, but second sip will make it much better.
Yeah. So I had a little talk with all the people here, and you call yourself head distiller. Other people call yourself master distiller. So what's up with that?
Well, I think it's some kind of they're making a joke of it. But to be honest, I learned for master distiller, and I'm not feeling good calling myself master distiller in an industry of really respectable people.
Okay.
I won't say names, but there are people who works 50, 60 years in this industry. They are masters. I'm learning new stuff every day.
Okay.
And I have a lot to experiment and a lot to learn. And I'm only in my beginning of the career. So
okay, so you're a bit of a humble person.
No. I know my place, and I give a lot of respect to the real masters in the industry.
Yeah. So, but you want to follow that up, and maybe in 10 years or 15 years or something.
Maybe. When I will feel it's right.
You will know when you feel like you're a master distiller. Yeah.
Right now I'm head distiller. This is my position here. I'm responsible for all what you get inside the bottle. And I think I think you did amazing product. I don't need a title. I'm just doing my job. I'm enjoying it. This is the most important thing.
Yeah, for me it was amazing when you told me the thing with the high cuts. After you've just heard it from somebody, it's like, obviously you need high cuts, but if you've not heard it from somebody, you would probably, if I would open up a distillery and not known that, and probably just produce bitter stuff.
So we talked about hot climate maturation, and we don't produce the spirit just as any distillery. We need to think about the maturation process, and if we think about the maturation process in Israel, we know in advance that we are not going to mature the spirit for a long time. That's why we don't want a lot of feints to go inside the distillate, because it will need an oxidation time. And we don't need it, and we don't have this time. So what we do is cutting very high, from 80% to 70% compared to any distillery in the world. I think it is very high. And we still get the oiliness, the mouthfeel, the body of the spirit of putting the line arm in degrees down. 45 degrees down, that gives us a little bit character, a little bit oil, and that's how we...
Still, you have to think about it to how to get the oiliness still in there and have a lighter spirit without the heavy alcohol. But what I really love to see is the next one is the red wine, right?
Yes.
And
so a little bit about the Elements Series. So the Elements Series is the next tier in our portfolio. It's still in the core range. And in the Elements Series, we still have about 50% ex-bourbon and STR casks.
Okay.
Just like we had in the Classic. But we add another cask type to each one of them. So it gives you more depth, it gives you more interest. And of course, I think from the 4 bottles, I think anyone can find at least one bottle that he would like or happy to buy. It gives you a range, a variety of flavors, of taste, that I think it's a good portfolio as a base.
So the red wine, is that from Israel then?
Yes, so Red Wine Cask we source from Israel, not because we have really good wine industry here, but the main reason for sourcing red wine cask from Israel is the kosher issues. And when you talk about kosher issues in whiskey, the only main issue is about the casks and what the cask contained before we are using it. So any grape product that we are taking the cask from must be kosher.
Oh, okay.
So if we talk about red wine, the winery, the wine must be kosher, and then we can use the casks.
Okay.
It's very easy to source kosher wines casks in Israel, and of course we have really good wines. So
I guess the demand for kosher whiskey in wine in Israel is
there
quite
are
high.
kosher wines all over the world, but it's hard to source the cask of it.
Yes.
And here we have a lot of friends, a lot of good wineries, and we can source really good casks for our whiskeys. But nowadays we are focusing on Mediterranean grape varieties, like Carignan.
Okay.
We really like the character that it gives. And if we talk about the wine industry in Israel, hot climate, so it has mostly a lot of body, very heavy wines. Not all of them, but
when you talk about wine, you talk about real wine, not fortified wine.
Yes.
Yes, it's
real
proper
wine. Red wine casks.
Okay.
We also have fortified wines in Israel, which we use the casks also.
Oh, okay.
Of course, here we have also the problem of kosher issues because fortified wine, it's grape-based product. It must be kosher also. So we cannot take just port cask from Portugal. We must have proper kosher fortified wine from Israel.
Okay.
So the red wine, and to be honest, when it comes to red wine cask in whiskey, I'm not a big fan.
Really?
I'm not a big fan.
I'm a really big fan of red wine.
Yeah, so
it's a matter of
what
taste.
I try to do here is to give my interpretation for how I think whiskey should be matured or in wine casks,
I do like
or how wine casks should be used in the whiskey industry. Not in the front, not overwhelmed, just a well-balanced wine notes in the background.
In the background, okay. Yeah, I do have a good amount of a bourbon cask note in there. You feel the 50% bourbon cask, and you feel the American oak in there.
Yep.
But you do have the grapiness, and the for me it's like grapes and also red berries and all that kind of stuff. And
It
I
gives
do love that.
more layer of paint to the ex-bourbon STR cask. It's very complex and it changes in the glass. What 46% gives us in the glass is that the whiskey is changing, and you can go for a journey in every glass.
Oh, this is a bit different than I had in the warehouses. Maybe the warehouses were a bit hotter. And
Well, it all depends on the.
Yeah, but this one is a bit more fresh. I do like it, but I'm really just one of these persons who likes a bit of a juicy berry touch to it. This just opens it up to.
No, I think what you tasted is the one from the vatting tank. We are working on a red wine vat right now, and it's still not final.
Yeah, but I had one at the Deadsea as well. That was just juicy.
The Deadsea gives you a lot of extract, a lot of flavors from the cask, and it is really juicy. The wine cask works really amazing there.
Yeah, I've heard that you have a lot of experimenting as well. I've heard about, like, what was that? Something with orange and the
yeah.
wine
So we'll talk about it when we come to the Apex series. But as Israelis, we really like to innovate, to experiment, and to do crazy things. We always think, what will come tomorrow? What will be new thing in the industry, for the industry? And we really try to innovate when it comes to cask, when it comes to any part, any step in the production process.
Yeah, the beauty is like when you have the innovation process for you is a bit shorter. So that you have a feedback cycle. You just try something and like,
One of the advantages are that the casks are working really fast in this climate. And after 3-4 months of maturation, we can already see where it goes to, or what main flavors comes from the cask. Of course, it will change, but we can start to imagine how it will be after 3 years.
Oh yeah. The thing is with the fast maturation, are you already like done with your warehousing space? Do you need more warehousing space in the future?
It's always a problem with us that we don't have enough space in the warehouses.
I
So
thought
we
like when you have like short cycles, you don't need that much space to warehouse. Is it?
Well, we are producing every day and filling cask every day, and we need more and more space for maturation.
Okay.
So we already have another warehouse outside the city, just outside Tel Aviv, and part of the cask are there. And maybe in the future we will have more, but we also have 5 different warehouses, small warehouses, all over the climate zones, all over Israel, in 5 different climate zones. So we have Jerusalem Mountain, we have the Deadsea, of course, we have Sea of Galilee, we have the desert, and we have one just 20 minutes beside the Deadsea with totally different climate.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, okay, yeah, Israel is just hot and that's it. But I found out that you have like the different layers, and I was really amazed how the Deadsea with the air pressure is just, you can actually see how the air pressure affects the whiskey. And it's like, what?
Of course. Yeah, it's fascinating to see.
It's fascinating.
Of course, we learn new stuff every day. It's still on experimental stage, but we will give you, the whiskey drinkers, sneak windows to see.
That's a beauty. You I think it's already mentioned. Like you have the 2 pillars. Like you have the old tradition and you have the new innovation, and that's what Tel Aviv is all about.
It's like Tel Aviv, yeah. Tel Aviv and Jaffa is the same council, the same city. And Jaffa is 3,000 years old and Tel Aviv is 100 years old. And it all mixed. And like us, we are using old methods of whiskey production to produce a new way of thinking, a new world whiskey.
Yeah.
And it's mixed, and I like it.
Yeah. So then the next one is the sherry.
Next one is the sherry.
Is that like trouble for the certification and stuff?
Well, the sherry the sherry is the whiskey that won the World Whiskey Awards Best Single Malt for 2023.
Nice.
And for the sherry, from the beginning, we didn't want to give up on Sherry Cask, because I think the world of whiskey, the whiskey drinkers will expect some Sherry Casks. Sherry is a very dominant style in the whiskey industry. And to be able to mature in Sherry Casks, we had to do a seasoning project in south of Spain.
Oh, okay.
Because there is no kosher sherry. And sherry is a grape-based product.
Okay.
So what we are doing for 5 years already is producing more than 55,000 liters of kosher sherry every year, only for us, for seasoning the casks.
Oh, okay.
And we are seasoning cask for 1 year in south of Spain, then sending the cask over here. I don't know what they are doing with the kosher sherry. I think they are just using it for different styles of sherry, not kosher after that. But to be able to do this project, we need to bring the rabbi from Barcelona to south of Spain to see the process, to verify that it's all by the kosher rules.
Okay.
And to be
so
honest,
it's a bit of a hassle for you to make that whiskey.
It's a very expensive process, but I think it gives the results. The positive part of this process is that we are able to follow the process of making the sherry, to taste the wine itself, and not only sourcing old sherry casks from a broker.
Yes, you do have. Even if the rabbi has a look at the process, while the rabbi does it, you have a look at the process. So you're totally in control of the process.
Yes.
Yes. What I do like is, compared to the red wine, it's much more creamy, and a little bit more sweetness to it, and a little bit more round to it.
Well, I think it's the crowd pleaser from our portfolio, and it gives you some sweetness with silkiness. It covers your mouth, and also some spiciness and chocolate finish, and I really like it.
It has a good amount of that spiciness, sweetness
Yeah.
thing.
The sherry types that we use here is PX and Oloroso. And PX gives you sweetness but also spiciness.
Yeah.
And Oloroso gives you a little bit sour finish but also silkiness and well body.
It's a very intense one if you come from like a normal whiskey connoisseur side. I've tried the PX Peated in the Deadsea, so this compared to that one is the light one.
Oh, it's totally different, totally different style.
But I like it. It's nice, round, but still a lot of intensity in there. I mean, the whole style of intensity just walks through your. I think that's your distillery character in there.
Yep.
Intense cask.
And we still have the distillery character in all the core range products. So the last element is the peated one. And here also I gave my interpretation for peated whiskies. And nowadays when we think about peated whiskies, most of the people we think about really heavily peated whiskies from Islay.
Okay.
What we are trying to do is to balance things and to make it peated, lightly peated, just as I think a proper peated whiskey should be.
So is it peated and in production or just from the cask?
Well, it's a combination between peated new make aged in ex-bourbon casks and unpeated new make aged in ex-Islay casks. So we gives it two styles of peat, combine it, and it gives more complexity, and it gives more. It's very interesting, and it's also it's really lightly peated, so the peat doesn't cover all the other flavors. You still have the creaminess, you still have grassiness, you still have some sweetness in the palate.
So how often do you do peated whiskey?
Usually our style is unpeated at all. Twice a year, every half a year, we are doing 2 weeks of peat.
Oh, 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
And the peat barley come sometimes from Czech Republic. They have really nice peat, different style of peat, different flavors of peated barley. And sometimes from UK as our regular barley.
But it has a freshness to it, but strangely enough, it's not that phenolic freshness to it.
Because it's not only Islay style of peat, it's also the peat that comes from the Czech Republic. It's more earthy. Less medicinal, less
well, it's strange. You have a little bit of a light note in there. I don't know what it is, but eucalyptus, peppermint. I don't know, but or is it just me? I don't know. So, but it's the fourth one, right?
The fourth one.
But it does have a peatiness to it.
Peat, we feel the peat mostly in the palate. In the finish, you still have it. In the nose, it's really, really light.
Yeah, it is.
So I like to think about this whiskey as a good gate for the peated whiskies, or nice peated whiskey for those who doesn't really like peated whiskies, just want to understand what it is.
Oh, your peat is in the aftertaste, or in the middle and the after. No, it's working itself up there. Yeah, it hides a bit in the glass. In the mouth, there's.
And it's nice. It's complex. I think whiskey should be balanced, not heavily peated. Of course, if you like it, drink it.
I think this one is a bit different to the others. I think this one is a bit more fresh and
it uses less regular ex-bourbon and STR casks, more of the peated casks. So it goes more to the character of the other casks and not to the base. So that's why it's a little bit different.
Yeah, the others are really loaded with flavor. This one is a bit fresher. It does have the peatiness flavor to it. The other ones are.
It comes from the background and then it goes. To the front at the end.
Yeah, but I see why you call them elements, where you have different elements that are sticking out of your classical distillery.
And still very important for us to maintain the distillery character inside.
Yeah, it has that, but it has one of two flavors elements sticking out of it. I like it. It's a nice idea behind the core range. I do like it.
Thank you.
So you're leading the team of distillers here. So how is the kosher rule affecting you?
Well, to be honest, not very much. We don't feel it in the daily time. Only when receiving casks, the rabbi should come and see the container and sign on every cask.
But you are strictly not allowed to have a 7-day schedule then?
Yes, we are not working on weekends. That reduces the capacity of the distillery. But we are still not working on our full capacity.
Okay.
So it won't affect us in the next few years. Only when we reach to the full capacity, then we have 1.5 days that we are not able to work, and it will hurt.
Would you be allowed to like fully automate these 2 days, or is that?
No, you're not allowed to work on
You're just not allowed to get into the building and do anything there. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And I don't believe in fully automation. Sorry, but I still believe that the nose, the human, the people, they are part of the whiskey making. You are not able to fully replace the people.
Yeah, sure. I think you have is that like your office is like right next to the distills? You just go out and like something wrong here.
Yeah, it won't work.
I've met a few master distillers who said, I just want to have a walk through the distill at least once a day to just get the smell and know everything is all right.
Yeah. So I come into the distillery in the morning, smell the mashing, I know that everything is good or something is different. But every process has its unique smell, and you feel it.
Yeah, what I like about your style is that you do have quite a controlled environment. You have the modern equipment, you have the water jacket, you have a lot of control.
Yeah, so during the production process until the new make, we need to monitor things and to control the temperatures because we are in very hot climate.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Maturation are not controlled. It's all totally free, totally open to the air and to the climate.
Yeah, you really embracing like the terroir, the climate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Terroir in whiskey for me is not the field, is not the barley. Terroir is more the maturation time. That's what gives the character of the place, of the people, of the time to the whiskey.
It's the climate and the wood.
Of course.
Yeah, the wood is also always like where does it come from? What's been there before? How was the wood treated and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, these are like the two most important things that go into the whiskey. Yep. So the last one is now.
The last one is part of the Apex series.
What is the Apex series?
So the Apex series, if here in the core range we try to maintain the distillery character and we try to balance things and to make it easy to drink, here we give the cask work in the Apex series. And the Apex series is split to two types. One is focused on cask types, very interesting casks that we pick, and very small batches, and focus on different casks, special casks, exceptional casks. The second one is based on terroir or on climate zones. So the first one is from the Deadsea. We already had 3 expressions from the Deadsea, part of the Apex, all small batches up to 5,000 bottles, and it bottled of course in higher alcohol strength.
Okay.
So let's drink the Deadsea, the last one that we released.
Is that like, but it's still a blend of different casks?
It's small batches. So here, for example, we have 23 casks aged at the Deadsea that entered this this batch, and every time it will be different. It's not won't be consistent like these bottles.
I don't know. Is that almonds? It's that. It's
and this is at 55.5% ABV.
Yeah, the Deadsea is for me. It's like I do love the spirit, but my heart really bleeds when you come to the number of we have 25% angel shares. Like what?
25% angel share because of the heat, because of the high air pressure, because of the it's really dry there all of the year. So think about 50 degrees, very dry, high air pressure. The casks are exhausted, and it's even a little bit break in the top. So evaporation is very quick, 25% a year in average. And that means that we are not able to mature for 3 years at the Deadsea. We are sending the cask back to the distillery after 1.5 year at the Deadsea.
To have it in the cool Tel Aviv.
Yeah, in cool Tel Aviv.
Cool Tel Aviv.
Reduce the angel share for 11%.
Oh, it's reduced. This is, for everybody else, it's just crazy to have that kind of angel share. But what it's just, yes, it's a very expensive way of producing, but it produces so crazy, crazy flavors and intensities and strengths.
It's really intense. Not all of the people will like it, but something that you cannot avoid.
I think, yeah, if you have some beginners type, they will be totally overwhelmed. This is 55% ABV, matured in the kind of the fastest way you can, with a lot of intense oak, intense wood, and I still feel it in my mouth quite a lot.
So in Germany, we have a few more of the Apex series.
Yeah, we did have them in our shop there.
We also have these black bottles, which are part of the Apex series, and the black bottles are really unique, exceptional single casks that I personally picked for the Apex series. Only single casks are bottled in the black bottles.
Okay, so what is special about these two?
This is just an example for innovation, and the pomegranate wine cask, Granat Apfel.
Oh yeah.
And Granat Apfel is very Israeli in one way and innovative in the world of whiskey in the other hand.
Yeah, I've had the pomegranate at the Deadsea, and that was quite amazing. It's I expected different results. I'm not quite sure if it was sweet or creamy, but it was crazy good. I liked it.
It's really different from any whiskey that you already that you tasted so far.
And the black one?
The black one is just an example for the single casks from the Apex.
Okay, what kind of cask is it?
This particular one is a peated peated fortified red wine cask. It's empty. It's empty bottle.
Was it that good?
just for the.
So the black ones are then only single cask?
The black ones are only single cask, up to 8 casks that we pick every year.
Okay.
And
they are really exclusive then?
Yeah, they are exclusive. They are interesting, very special casks, but exclusive and expensive.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yes, I do have to say, yeah, you are a bit more expensive, but if you look at the process, if you look at all the stuff you have, I think you've earned the extra price for that. Yeah.
Well, we're trying to do whiskey with no compromission on every aspect, any step of the process, and I hope the people can see it when they can feel it when they drink the whiskey.
Yes, I do like it that you're kind of the pioneers in the business. I think there are now followers for you, but you were like the first proper or the first whiskey distillery in Israel.
Yeah, and we are the first. We are also the biggest now in Israel, but we are very happy with any more distilleries that popping up in Israel, and I hope the whiskey industry, the whiskey community in Israel will grow, and we will have some good category of Israeli whiskey.
I have to say, I was a bit skeptical at the beginning. It was like, okay, really, Israeli whiskey? But then I tried I think it was a young whiskey or something you called it? Young single malt, you called it?
Again,
I was like, okay, this is a young single malt, seriously? What are they releasing? And then I had the classic, and I was like, whoa, okay, they are serious business. They are not just like, that's a joke.
Yeah, again,
but
we didn't call it whiskey
really
before it was 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's why we chose young single malt. But it was important for us to let people see what we are doing during the process, not only wait for the whiskey.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So yeah, I never thought that, but Israeli whiskey is a thing now.
Well, I hope it will be bigger and bigger, and we will have some industry in Israel.
Yeah, I think we'll probably meet in a couple of years again, and then we'll see. But I guess you're up to the task if you can find new warehouses.
We also have one more distillery that we just started distillation in the more northern part of Israel.
Ah, okay, nice. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much for giving us this all these information, and yeah.
Thank you, and I hope to visit you in Germany soon.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if you found this video interesting, then please feel free to share that with your other whiskey friends. It's yeah, a nice way to share these information with people out there. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.
This is an M&H Apex Single Malt Whiskey from Tel Aviv. And I'm actually floating in the Deadsea. And this is the Apex Deadsea Whiskey. Very tasty.